In today's episode, the Mark II Vauxhall Cavalier. Hello, welcome to Quarterlight. Now, what are we? Well, Quarterlight is a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures like this one from around the world. This is a UK brochure that we've been looking at from April 1983. Already looked at the Chevette, the Astra in the series so far. Now we're up to the Cavalier. 1983 means the Mark II Cavalier, so let's have a look at that now. So this is the brochure we've been looking at, Vauxhall Opel range catalogue 1983. You can see the variety of the models on the front cover here. They're not all there, but we can certainly see, if I just manually move in, if you don't mind me just pushing the camera towards the brochure there, we can certainly see we do have the Cavalier in top of the range spec. Now we're Vauxhall Opel and this is the Mark II Cavalier. Unlike the Mark I, which certainly did have some differences from its Opel sister, this is now, apart from the badges of course, pretty much identical to the Opel Ascona. Anyway, let's move to the range. So the range actually starts here in this brochure, because in this brochure they decided to do the highest spec models and then work the way down, other than the usual way of starting base and moving up. But nevertheless, this is where we start in this particular brochure with the Cavalier CD. Overall, I always quite like the Mark II Cavalier, I must admit. Mark I, Mark II I think were my favourites, maybe the Mark I slightly, but I did like the Mark II, and then after that I kind of lost a little bit of interest. But certainly the Mark II is right up there with one of my favourites. First introduced on the 26th of August 1981, it ran all the way to 1988 with various facelifts along the way. And I guess this is the vehicle you probably aspired to have, the Cavalier CD. We'll have a look at the text, then we'll come back to these lovely images. So we can see the Cavalier CD has two options, both coming with the 1800 injection engine, so either a 4-door saloon or a 5-door hatchback could be had. There's little images of them both, so we'll have a look at that in a minute. It says, throughout Europe, the designation CD is reserved for the absolute top model in the range. No manufacturer bestows it lightly. In the Cavalier CD, thoughtful comfort, practical driving virtues, distinctive features and tasteful interiors add up to a car expressively designed for fast, long distance and stylish, I just missed the last word off there, travel. So I guess really in Vauxhall's world at this time, the CD was a kind of like equivalent to the Gear version of a Ford, although I think the Gear always seems a little bit more special. But certainly these CD models were very nicely spec'd, and nice to see it with that 1800 injection engine. One thing we do forget about the Mark II was when it was actually launched, it offered class-leading levels of fuel economy and performance, which had previously been unseen in this size of car. So actually it was quite an important car when it arrived. Anyway, let's continue with the text. I'm trying not to waffle too much because we have got a lot to get through. So we get a 5-speed gearbox, power steering, electrically operated front windows, electrically operated door mirrors, front fog lamps, bronze tinted glass, laminated front screen with a blue shade band, spoked alloy road wheels, headlamp wash wipe, sliding steel sunroof, intermittent tailgate wash wipe for the hatch, electric boot release for the saloon, stereo radio stereo cassette player with 4 speakers, rear seat head restraints, saloon, asymmetrical split rear seat for the hatch, turn button tailgate lock for the hatch. So actually these CDs for 1983 were really well spec'd, weren't they? So we get a small image of the saloon in white gold, and the main image is a hatchback in onyx brown. We'll talk more about the colours at the end. I do have a colour chart. Alloy wheels, I wasn't a huge fan of the alloy wheels on the CD. I preferred the other alloy wheels in the range. These looked a little bit almost like wheel trims, didn't they? But they were unusual alloys. Then we get somebody on a horse for reasons unknown. And then we're going to look at what looks like the door card, which is a little bit unusual. See if we can get a closer look at that in a moment. But then we get, of course, the dashboard with the CD on the wheel there. I always remember they were quite plasticky interiors, but actually I think for 1983 I think that would have looked quite impressive. Yeah, it's kind of showing the door card, but I guess this is sort of like the folder it's showing with a little CD on the little folder. Bit of a weird image, that one, actually. Now the other model that was kind of like the range topper, I guess, but the more sporty one, and I'm sure another model you aspire to own if you never did, the Cavalier SRi, again available as a 4-door saloon or 5-door hatch, again with the 1800 injection engine. I guess more of a sportier look. I think overall I preferred the look overall of the SRi to the CD, and I think that's a lot to do with the wheels actually. But let's have a look at the text, then we'll come back to the images. It tells us if you like to cut a dash, you'll like the new SRi. Smooth, powerful 1800 fuel injected engine, slick 5-speed gearbox, sport steering wheel, full instrumentation, and not forgetting lots of luxury and practical features for everyday motoring. Make the SRi saloon or hatch an exhilarating driving experience. And then it says motor, as in the Motor magazine, weekend in January the 8th, 1983, summarised its SRi road test, said, "It's a sporting car for the family man who will find the day-to-day practicality of a 5-door hatchback has only been enhanced by the power and grip boosts." Standard features: Highland check cloth trim, Recaro Rally front seat head restraints, cloth door trim panels, full instrumentation including rev counter, voltmeter and oil pressure gauge, push button mono radio stereo cassette player with 4 speakers and balance control, split rear seat hatch, electric boot release, saloon, 5-speed gearbox, bronze tinted glass all round, and screen shade band with graduated blue tinting, laminated windscreen, intermediate tailgate wash wipe hatch, electrically operated door mirrors, turn button tailgate lock for the hatch, uprated suspension, sports alloy wheels, low profile radials, spoilers front and rear, 2-tone horn, twin rear fog lamps, body side protection mouldings. A look inside the hatchback version and that split folding seats. We get a little bit of an image at speed. Never really my favourite image really in a brochure to look at, particularly on camera, but this particular example is in opal green, rather confusingly, opal as in O-P-A-L. Confusing name for them to use, but certainly a nice colour. Some of the smaller images, we get a tiny front end image of the SRi and lovely alloy wheels. I do really like these alloy wheels. Certainly compared to the CD version, I think these look a lot nicer. I always think Vauxhall was a lot keener to give you alloy wheels, where Ford I always thought they was a little bit stingy, and quite often they were just optional extras. Moving down, a look at the dash with the rev counter there and that more sporty steering wheel. Another small shot, this is now the saloon. Like showing you, demonstrating it's got that lower black area on there. Also can just about make out the headlamp wipers. Another look at the gear lever. It's also showing the front electric window switches there, I do believe, and they would have been an optional extra though, because the SRi didn't come standard with those, unlike the CD version. Look at the rear, we got a little bit of a tailgate spoiler, and we can see how it's badged, Cavalier SRi. I do particularly love those front seats as well. But anyway, let's move down the range. So if the CD was that sort of flagship luxury version and the SRi was the sporty one, the GLS that we're looking at now, I guess, was kind of like the top of the range of like the more ordinary models, and a smaller engine. We're now down to a 1600. Let's have a look at the text. Again, could be had as a saloon or a hatch. It's one of the most impressively luxurious cars in its price class, with a long list of standard features that are anything but standard. 5-speed gearbox, divided rear seat on hatchbacks, stereo radio, stereo cassette, and electric boot release for saloons, all enhance the luxury feel, appearance and performance of the Cavalier GLS. Keen drivers will enjoy using the 5-speed gearbox for added performance, flexibility and the measurable gains in MPG. Autocar, week ending 18th or December the 18th, 1982, commented, "In spite of the higher gearing, the manner in which the 5-speed car will rocket off the line might be associated with some rather more exotic names than Vauxhall." At a steady 56, the DRT figure for the GLS with 5-speed gearbox leaps to 51.3 mpg. Even at a steady 75, the 38.7 mpg is impressive by any standard. From start to finish, the Cavalier GLS adds extra luxury and refinement to all the virtues that have made the Cavalier one of Europe's most outstanding cars. Standard features: dapple and velour cloth trim, cloth door trim, full instrumentation including rev counter, oil pressure gauge and voltmeter, push button stereo radio, stereo cassette player with 4 speakers and balance control, split rear seat, hatch, headlamp on warning buzzer, sliding steel sunroof, bronze tinted glass all round, laminated front screen, screen shade band with graduated blue tinting, 5-speed gearbox, intermittent tailgate, wash wipe for the hatch, electric boot release for the saloon, turn button tailgate lock, hatch, electrically operated door mirrors, alloy road wheels, body side protection mouldings, twin rear fog lamps, side repeat flashers. And apologise, it does fall on the crease again, but I think the GLS is quite an unusual model. Let's just zoom in a bit further. Because we get things like standard alloy wheels, I think in a lot of manufacturers this is so well spec, this would have been a top of the range model, so quite unusual to have this with the CD and the SRi. I guess it certainly looks much more ordinary. That's why I say I guess this is like the top of the range of the rest of the models, but yeah, they certainly threw a lot of equipment on them, and like I say, Ford was really mean with their alloy wheels. Now these are the top 3 models and we've all got alloy wheels on them, which of course doesn't sound much today, but back in 83 that was quite a big deal. So there we go, still got a 5-speed gearbox. We've got that not electric, I don't think it would have been electric, would it? We've certainly got a steel sunroof. Look at those alloy wheels, which actually look quite nice. Apologies for the reflections, but a bit of a look at the in-car entertainment. And the boot release, which is showing, it's electronic for the saloon model. Moving down the range takes us to the GL. Again, we can get it as a hatch or saloon. A couple of engine choices though, a 1300 or a 1600 now. So let's have a look at the text. It tells us the Cavalier GL is a luxury car in its own right. So if you're the kind of owner who likes to be highly selective with extra equipment, it's a very fine car to start with. Admittedly, the GL has as standard most of the features usually listed as optional extras on the contemporaries. Tinted glass all round, laminated front screen and tinted shade band, stereo cassette player, electric boot release for saloon. They're just a selection of the extras we've incorporated, all of which wouldn't appear to leave much scope for personalising a Cavalier GL. You could consider though GM 3-speed auto transmission, acknowledged as one of the very best, or you can opt for power assisted steering on the 1600 GL or 5-speed gearbox. So I guess that's the compromise. We're having a standard 4-speed box now. There's also a choice of 2 types of sunroof. The effect, the Cavalier is one of the very few cars in its class that earns its GL badge. So standard features, we get a dapple velour cloth trim, so still quite a nice seat actually. Push button mono radio stereo cassette with 4 speakers and balance control. Front seat head restraints, cloth door trims, full instrumentation including rev counter, oil pressure gauge and voltmeter, headlamp on warning buzzer, split rear seat for the hatch, electric boot release for the saloon, intermittent tailgate wash white for the hatch, laminated front screen, bronze tinted glass all round, screen shade band with graduated blue tinting, turn button tailgate lock for the hatch, twin rear fog lamps, electrically operated door mirrors. So main image now, the hatchback and saloon showing this image with a couple of caravans, and like thinking about it in the 80s, you often saw Cavaliers with small caravans, didn't you? Moving up, a little bit of a look at the dash, but still not badly equipped. We've still got a rev counter on there. And then another little bit of a look at the rear of the green hatchback GL. So moving down the list further, and moving down the list now takes us to the Cavalier L. The Cavalier L spec model was really everywhere. It must have been the biggest seller. Certainly the widest range of vehicles. So in saloon you could have a 1300, a 1600 and a 1600 diesel now. Hatchback the same thing. So the diesel has joined the lineup. And like I said, the L models were everywhere. Certainly lower spec, we'll see things missing now like a rev counter, more basic steering wheel, etc. But let's have a look at the text. It tells us 5-seater spaciousness, choice of hatchback or saloon style, plus a comprehensive specification endorses the popularity of the Cavalier L. Fastback styling of the hatch easily swallows 42.9 cubic feet, yet as a 5-seater there's a generous 15.7 cubic foot, plus a versatile split rear seat. Advanced front wheel drive with its interior space efficiency ensures a vast 18 cubic foot boot for the Cavalier L saloon. And there's a choice of 3 outstanding fuel efficient engines, including the 1600 diesel, which now has a 5-speed gearbox fitted as standard. Whichever Cavalier L you choose, there's a full range of luxury features with low running costs, reliability and durability as extra bonuses. Standard features: Donegal tweed trim, front seat head restraints, push button mono radio stereo cassette player with 4 speakers, split rear seat, hatch, front door pockets, quartz clock, illuminated cigar lighter, illuminated glove box and load area, 5-speed gearbox for the diesel, remote control door mirrors, laminated front screen, turn button tailgate boot lock, halogen headlamps, reversing lights, locking fuel cap and twin rear fog lamps. A look at the hatchback version from the rear, and kind of like a bit of a reminder that it was actually quite a high sill, wasn't it? But not uncommon for cars still to have quite a high sill, because that was kind of like a strengthening piece. So of course you had to lift things quite a way to get them in that hatch. And then we get somebody leaving for work in what looks like very much a company car look, doesn't it? Certainly I'm sure the L models were, lots of them were company cars at the time. Look at the dash there, we can see that much more basic steering wheel, and like I say, no rev counter now. This one does give us the opportunity to look at the glove box though. Yes, it's got locks on it. Lower spec seats for sure, but certainly nice to see we've still got head restraints. And like I say, always liked the interior colours that Vauxhall used to use at the time. There is one other model though, the very base model, not even the L, just called the Cavalier. Although you could have it as a 1300 or a 1600 model, but you could only have it as the saloon, no hatch as this base model Cavalier. So let's have a look what it has, or indeed what it does not have. So it tells us the model that's simply badged Cavalier is something of an enigma to competitors. Its specification is way above that usually associated with the price leader of its range. And these price leaders, of course, you could always say the Cavalier starts at, and then you get this very basic model. Seemed to be very common to do at the time. It says, what's more, it incorporates all the advanced engineering that has helped to position the Cavalier at the very forefront of modern medium-sized cars. A glance at the feature highlights below confirms how this Cavalier scores with extra refinements of the sort usually reserved for far more expensive models. And the low initial price is enhanced in every way. Both 1300S and 1600S engines produce outstanding economy in relation to their high power. The economy of the Cavalier 1300S is even further improved with a wide ratio gearbox as standard. Simplified servicing depresses day-to-day running costs. Low insurance group ratings are a tribute to Cavalier reliability and durability. If ever a car has earned the accolade outstanding value for money, that car is the price leader Cavalier. So the standard features for this base model: tweed cloth trim, reclined front seats, see-through front head restraints, push button radio, quartz clock, cigar lighter, colour keyed carpet, driver's door pocket, cockpit style instrument console, dipping rear view mirror, illuminated heater controls, side window demist vents, laminated front screen, remote control driver's mirror, front spoiler, thermoplastic clip-on bumper covers, body side protected mouldings, halogen headlamps, heated rear window, reversing lights, twin rear fog lamps and a locking fuel cap. So there is our Jamaica yellow base model, and actually if you compare it to Ford's super basic models, I don't think it was actually too bad. Lovely little image. Looks like we've got another base model, or maybe an L in the background there with an SRi. There is your base model dash. And just to prove, we get some type of in-car entertainment, basic, but we get it. And the all-important cigarette lighter, or cigar lighter. So we'll just end with the colours and the availability for the Cavalier, and I've said it before, I do quite like the colour chart at this time. So starting at the top there, Polar White was available for all the models, although just bear in mind this SRi had that lower colour to the bottom, didn't it, which was anthracite metallic. And then Jamaica Yellow, bit more limited Jamaica Yellow, that was just available for your base L and your GL and GLS, so not available for your CD, which is not really surprising, although I think it will look quite nice on an SRi actually. But anyway, moving on. Green and henna red, they were both for the base L, GL and GLS. Next two colours, so parchment weirdly was available on all the models, which actually came as a surprise. That looked quite unusual on an SRi, I think. Mocha brown though was available on your base L, GL, GLS. Next two colours, so carmine red, available on them all apart from the CD, which is a little bit weird, isn't it? And then China blue available for the base L, GL and GLS. So that then takes us to black, and black very weirdly was only available for the CD model, which is certainly a little bit unusual, isn't it? And then we get this unusual royal red, which I don't believe was any sort of Cavalier colour. And the final colour, or the final solid colour, Stratos blue, again I don't think that was a Cavalier colour. Starting here with white gold, I always thought white gold looked absolutely fantastic on these early 80s Vauxhalls, just very much a colour of its time. I always associate them with the Astras and the Cavaliers. However, white gold was a little bit different actually. It was a 2-coat metallic paint option, so it was certainly more expensive. And it was only available for the Cavalier range with the top of the range CD model, or indeed on your SRi, but looked fantastic on those, I always thought. Moving along there to opal green, and OPAL, like I said, an unusual choice for these Vauxhall opals. A strange name, I always thought, but opal green, it did look nice. It was a very nice metallic for sure. Again, it was one of those 2-coat metallic paints, not just a standard metallic, it was a 2-coat metallic, which was I think a little bit of a more expensive process. Now, these were available on your SRIs. I seem to remember seeing a few of the SRIs in this particular colour. I don't believe it was actually available on any other colour in the range. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't remember it being on anything other than an SRI. So then going through the rest, so Astro Silver was just an SRI colour. Carnelian Red was an SRI colour. Anthracite was the lower half of an SRI, so you couldn't get that on the SRI. The only model you could get it was a CD. And then finally the Aquamarine Blue was just an SRI colour, a rare one, and one I quite liked actually. So quickly moving down, so Helios Blue, not a Cavalier colour. Onyx Brown, just for your CD. The one just called Silver wasn't a Cavalier colour. Remember we got the colour called, let me just remember again, Astro Silver, didn't we? Silver Green was a Cavalier colour, but it was only available on the base L, GL and GLS. Last four colours, none of them are SRI colours actually, so Antique Gold, none of them very much takes me back to that period of time. On the base L, GL, GLS, Sapphire Blue, again on your base L and GLS. One called Light Blue, again on your base L, GL and GLS, and then that Overline Green, that unusual colour, was on your base L, GL and GLS. So there we go, the lovely Mark II Vauxhall Cavalier range for 1983. I was just thinking, I don't think we've ever even featured the Mark II Cavalier on Quarterlight before, and I really like them as well, so glad we've caught up with that. We'll certainly carry on with the series next week with these Vauxhalls for 1983, but we'll end by saying, let's end with the base model, as we like base models on Quarterlight, although the SRI is the one I would have wanted. Please do consider subscribing on here on Quarterlight. It is all completely free. You'd never be charged to subscribe, so I appreciate that. And you can become a member as well now. But thank you so much for watching today. Many more episodes to come. Next week, Manta. So that's going to be worth watching, isn't it? Thank you for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you again soon, and goodbye.